Hey Bearcats, welcome back to another studio sessions at DAAP. I'm your host, Delfina Lasache, and today we're talking excited about transferring schools. Whether you're coming from a different design program, exploring new academic paths, or just curious about making the move, this episode is for you. I'm excited to be joined by Grace Sparks and Honey Reed, who will share their journey, their challenges they face, and how DAAP has shaped their paths. So, grab your sketchbook, coffee, or whatever gets you in the zone, and let's dive into today's session. So guys, tell me, what made you decide to transfer to DAAP from your previous college?
So one thing that made me decide to transfer to here was just the industrial design program. It's not offered from where I transferred from. I transferred from Southern Tennessee. So that was kind of like the biggest reason why I chose DAAP in the first place. But I liked their resources and facility, mainly just between of like the teachers and who they had and a lot of their classes.
Mm-hmm. So it was between this or Berea, and then this is the only one that I toured back in high school. And also because I'm from Kentucky, and so you get a big discount when you're from Kentucky. I think regular tuition's like $6,000, and when you're from Kentucky, it's only $7,000. So it's like going in state, out of state, which is really nice. And then I think the co-op was a big part of it. That just seemed really interesting to me. I think I had a client tell me about it. I'm a hairstylist, so I had a client tell me about like she had a niece who went to Cincinnati and got to do like all these fun things, and I was like, oh, like the one place that I toured, that sounds really fun. But yeah, I think that's really it.
Yeah, I think if you ask, like, you just wander around, ask like random people, like, oh, why did you choose DAAP? I think they'll say like co-ops 9 times out of 10.
I think that's a really big like draw of Cincinnati.
It is.
So tell me, how did you find the transfer process? Were there any challenges or surprises?
Not too many challenges. Not too many surprises. A little bit challenging. I found it a little difficult to navigate like some applications like Common App, but I ended up kind of going back and applying directly through the school. So, and with that came some more resources that kind of helped so I could ask more questions and reach out to more people in the admissions office if I had issues with any of my applications.
I didn't know I was a transfer student. I put in the application regularly through Common App, and then they emailed me and they were like, you're actually a transfer student. And I was like, you're joking. Because I went to cosmetology school and I was like, what could I possibly be a transfer student for? Like, what are the credits? Hair. So they emailed me. I called them back. I was like, are you sure I'm a transfer student? And they were like, yes, we're absolutely sure. And
I think in the process you used 2 different platforms to apply.
Mm-hmm.
Will you have chosen another one? Can you tell me which one did you use and how was?
I used Common App, which I really liked that because it took me like 10 minutes maybe. I also had my friend Macy help me, which I think was the biggest thing that actually helped. I was like, can you please help me? Like, so she came over and we like filled them out together and we knocked it out like super fast. But a lot of the stuff was like already filled out for me because I had a teacher in high school. Like, even if we didn't want to go to college, we still had to fill it out. And when I came back to it, it was already all filled out for me. And so that was, I think, like the easiest thing.
Yeah, I think that's why I didn't really like using Common App because I didn't really had it set up prior to college. So I had to like go in, try and set everything up, and it was just not fun and not working. So I ended up just going through the school. And they gave me an option during application to submit a portfolio, which I also really didn't have much of one, but it really helped to kind of like get that general idea of like how to build a portfolio. And one thing that I was talking to some people, and I think I talked to some people in the admissions office of like, what do I even put on this, right? And they said like they want to see mainly like your progress in like your effort and not just like a bunch of like random things you made, but some things that you kind of gave some thought process to.
Tell me, how did DAAP help you settle in both academically and socially?
I think there was like during the first week of school, there was a lot of things going on. So that kind of helped to warm up. And as we're like getting more into the fall season, there's a lot of like little fall kind of things going on. So essentially,
There's like,
first years.
have you used the Cork app? CORQ?
A little bit, not a whole lot.
I never heard of that. What is it?
So basically, it kind of shows you all like the events that are being held on campus, and you can like RSVP. So if you're like super, especially that like first couple weeks, there's so much going on, and like I just kept going to things because like it was just kind of like odd because like the friends I did have on campus who like were here before me, they're all like juniors, and And so it was kind of like weird because it's like I don't see them. I started to like make all new friends, and like the first like month or two was kind of awkward, and I don't think there's anything you can really do to like facilitate past that. But like it's gotten a lot nicer now. Like the more you settle into it, like people chit chat with each other, and it's like, oh, this is so fun and cute. But I really do like the core gap. Like I've found some really like fun clubs on it.
I think one thing that helped me was like just like the foundational courses in industrial design is like I'm in like the fourth section or something, and like we're all on the same set of classes, so we're all like with each other all at the same time.
Yeah.
I think someone bought a Slinky because we just like, let's just buy a Slinky, we need something fun, so that helped us kind of like bond together.
Yeah, I think having the like ours is like medium modules, but it's still foundations. We are foundations, and then like our drawing class are the same group of people. So it's like nice having like a small like little core that I know is gonna be like shook up next semester, but it's nice to have like some amount of like stability and like consistency. So like you can actually like meet these people and like kind of form a little bond.
And do you talk to any advisors or someone that was like a teacher or some other faculty to help you in the process also, or not?
Yeah, I talked a little bit to my advisor, especially coming from a little bit farther. It's about a 6-hour drive from where we're at in Tennessee. So just kind of like talking with her kind of helped plan out and adjust. And she gave me all the resources of like, oh, you should get the core cap. And especially like with orientation of like, I downloaded like 20 apps during orientation of like all like different resources and different degree programs of like Cork, it was a Get Involved UC, Canvas, Catalyst, all the apps.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you guys, which resources did you find helpful during this transition? So,
I think the best resource is people.
Just kind of calling or sending an email just to kind of like, or just scheduling a meeting to get in front of someone to help asking a question. Yeah, I'd agree. I know I definitely had some questions when I was like applying in up with scheduling some upcoming classes for the next semester. It's just easier to get more of like a solid answer, and especially they can help you like point out something that you're specifically looking for.
Yeah, and they can like point you to the right website also.
And if they don't have the answer to the question, they probably know someone else who has the answer to the question.
So you talk a little bit about your other institution, but which was the main difference you find out with DAAP and your other institution that you went before?
So I just came from, I did 2 years free at a community college, and there it's a community college. A lot of things lent more towards the academia and academics, and I just kind of did a lot of my gen eds there. One interesting thing is prior to going into industrial design is that I did culinary arts. So there's a bit of a difference, still like hands-on, but there's still a bit of a difference between them. So I transferred mainly with a lot of my academics gen eds done. So going into DAAP, there's a lot of kind of hands-on, kind of almost like trade school-esque kind of coursework right now at the moment. So that was probably the biggest difference.
So it's like night and day between cosmetology school and here, because like cosmetology school, you go for a certain amount of hours. You're sitting there 9 a.m. to 4:30, just like getting through the day. Like sometimes you're out on the floor doing like a client's hair. It's so different. It's so different. Like I don't think there's a single like comparable thing, because like even the atmosphere, I think like the one thing that's really similar is like the gender makeup with mostly women. I don't know how it is in industrial design, but like fine arts, the majority of it is women. And like in cosmetology school, I think we had one guy.
I think one of the biggest things, especially coming from like a community college, is like DAAP leans like more into like an art school, kind of like a small little art school in itself. So I'm getting used to a lot of the critiques and whatnot, and kind of like a lot of that kind of coursework you're working on large products throughout the year. Usually like my go-to answer when someone asks, oh, Grace, what are you doing? And I say, I'm making shapes. And it's quite literally what I've been doing.
Yeah. Like I went to a very like intense art high school, so a lot of that is very familiar. And so it didn't feel like a huge like something totally unfamiliar. I felt like a big shift from cosmetology school. So it was like something super serious to something very unserious to something serious again. It was a very big like flip-flop, which I think just like helps. It just helps somehow. Like just be like, it's actually not that serious no matter what. Like,
So tell me, what advice would you give to anyone who's transferring to DAAP?
I think one thing is to not be afraid, because I think a lot of people, especially like I was a little nervous originally transferring, is that you feel like you're going to be behind, or you feel like kind of like you're not going to get into your little group of people. But now taking a lot of my classes, like we went to all to get lunch. I think we all went to go get pumpkins or something like that. So like you find your people, even though you're transferring and you may be like some steps ahead, some steps behind, you're going to find your people. And I think there's a lot of good things when transferring. I think a lot of people who do transfer have a different like maturity level of like going from, like you said, a serious situation to a not so serious situation to a serious situation. I think you have a different like mental capacity for a lot of those things.
yeah, I'd definitely have to say on the pacing part, especially with DAAP just in general. But I'd have to agree on the maturity thing, because like I went from like paying bills, like paying rent, paying bills, living on my own, like all of that to, again, like now I don't have to pay bills. I don't have to pay bills. I don't have to do anything. Like everything's already paid for basically. And then just like having all of this free time and really just like knocking stuff out and like prioritizing things, which I think is something that like I see a lot of my classmates struggle with, is they're like, oh, I stayed up until 3 a.m. doing this. And I'm like, I knocked this out. Like I came home and I did it. And like I want it done before I do anything else. Like I'm an okay planner. Like I don't want to get too far ahead, but like take it like a few steps at a time. Like I think that was a huge thing in cosmetology school, because they give you this big list of stuff. You do so much before you like end. And like I would just do like, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna do 6 perms every week, no matter what. Or like maybe I'll do a little bit more this week, and so I can do less the next week. Just take it like, I think my cosmetology instructor, she said something really great. She was like, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. And so many of these projects feel like an elephant.
Yeah.
Why is the paper so big? Why is it? They had us like do like a library. Like we did this big 1-point perspective of a library. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to draw these books anymore. Like I don't. 1 bite at a time. Really. That's
One book at a time.
1 book at a time.
If you could change one thing about your transferring process, what would you change?
I think I would try to apply to some more scholarships. I think talking to a lot of people, like there's a lot of resources out there for a lot of transfer students that I think people don't realize. I think you and I were both transfer ambassadors. So that's something that is a really good resource, I think. Shamelessly plug. But yeah, I think is like, you just gotta reach out and start looking around, because there's a ton of resources to be had. I know a lot of people don't really apply to them. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is that I'd look at more things.
Yeah, I think like the thing that we talked about earlier about just like calling and talking to people and like giving yourself a lot of time, and don't get like so concrete about the plan. Like you should have a big loose plan. Like you shouldn't just be like totally directionless, but don't get so like stuck in a plan that when one thing falls apart, like your whole plan falls apart. Like have a direction and then take it 1 step at a time so you can adjust. Because like things probably won't go your way all the time, and like there will be little hiccups and all that, and you can have enough time to like adjust for them.
Do you had something in your process that you say like,
I should have being a transfer student. I was like, what? What do you mean?
And talking about the creative process, do you think that DAAP influenced you in some kind of way or change your perspective of things?
I think like right now it's a little too early to tell, because I think we're at a lot of like foundational classes. But I've been taking this one art history class, where the director in the class of the teacher of the class is super knowledgeable. He used to work here, and now he's recently retired, but he's still teaching the class, and he keeps having these guest people come in from industrial design, and just kind of learning of how broad the degree program is and how multidisciplinary it is. I know like a lot of people will in industrial design get involved with this one particular club called Enable UC. I'm thinking about trying to join them, but they work with kids who need prosthesis. So designing those, and I didn't know that industrial design worked a lot with the medical and bioengineer stuff. that's something I learned going here.
Yeah, I also think I'm just like too early in it to really tell, but I'm also like, I already think I had a very strong like creative kind of direction in myself. Like I've always been doing art since I was very little. It's always been a very big part of me. I'm so strong, in fact, that like I got off of it and then I was like, I have to go back. Like I don't feel right. But I think it's good just to have like a little bit of like showing the paths that you can take, because like right now they're just giving you a little sampler of like, oh, you could be doing this or that. Like I think my biggest problem is that I want to do so much of it. Like some things really don't interest me all that much. Like I'm not really big on photography or film. Like I think it's fun, I enjoy it a little bit, but it's not something I would do like full time. But trying it again and like really going for it, and for somebody who's never had that experience either, like I feel very fortunate because I've had so much experience in my life, and like I think that's already helped. But if you don't, having all that little bits really puts you in one way.
I would say like I'm coming in from that end of the spectrum where I'm coming in, because I didn't really know about industrial design up until like semi recently, prior to transferring in, to like have that path kind of narrowed like worked out for me already, to like later on in my like third or fourth year I can choose a concentration between whether I want to do like more product design or more transportation design. Especially right now, I can kind of see that we're trying a bunch of different things, from doing very physical hands-on things in my 3D design class, while working on some more conceptual stuff in my design drawing class. So you can kind of see how those kind of play together. Like I'm not super big a fan of the conceptual stuff. I do like more of the 3D stuff, but I'm glad to know that I know that now. But
So to close up this episode, would you give any advice to any transfer students?
I would say like a lot of things that we were talking about, of like, don't be afraid to send emails or make phone calls. The squeaky wheel gets the oil in this case, where it's like if you have a question or you have a problem, just reach out, you'll get answered. Not to be afraid. I think transferring to schools can be pretty intimidating, because like you feel a little bit alone and a little bit isolated, as like your freshman classmates have already made friends and stuff like that. But you'll find your people very quickly. You'll get your small group of people that you just want to like hang out with and like just go get lunch and to study with.
Yeah, and even if you don't, like, there's so many, like, it'll come in time. It always does. You really just have to trust the process. I think my other advice would be cosmetology school students or graduates, you are a transfer student. I don't know about all the other trades, but you're probably also a transfer student. So you should email and be like, am I a transfer student? Yes or no? Because you can get little benefits from it.
Well, thank you guys for sharing your experiences. And for everyone that is hearing us, keep in touch and aware, because we're posting next episode next Friday. Yay!